Hello everyone, this is Leah Whitehorse, and in this recording I'm going to be answering a patron's question from the February 2025 Q&A series, and the question was about dreams, a very important topic, one of my favourite topics ever, and the patron's question was: I've been keeping a dream journal for some time now, but I rarely review it. I've no idea where to start when it comes to interpretation. Where shall I begin? I'd love to know what you think. So, as I mentioned, this is a topic that is very close to my heart because I've kept a dream diary since 1981. So what does that make it? About 44-ish years. And I can actually remember dreams right back into childhood. I actually have more memory of my dreams in childhood than I do of my actual childhood. So that might be a little strange, but that's kind of how it is, maybe because I also had a lot of trauma sort of from my teenage years going forwards, and that might have erased some of the actual memories that I had from waking life. But to me, my dream life was always just my other life. To me, dreaming was just as valid and just as much of an experience to me as the waking world. I was always very aware of the difference, that dreams were a different kind of reality to the consensus reality that we are in. But still, I was very vehement. I can even remember sort of heated discussions with parents and other people where I was kind of told, that's not real. But it was real to me. It was real and important to me. And I was very conscious that I was in some way, I didn't have the words to describe this, of course, but I was very conscious that in some way I was visiting places, going places that weren't of this world, and also sort of meeting characters who were not of this world as well, or, spirits, this kind of thing. I didn't have the language for really understanding any of this when I was very young, but I had the experiences. So, in my dreams, I have learned a great deal. I have been communing with all different kinds of characters. I've been shown all different types of worlds. I've been sort of visited by people who have passed away. I have been visited by spirits or forces, angelic forces, or spiritual forces of some kind, beings of some kind that I know are of the higher sort of order in some way. I have been to places in the dream worlds. In fact, I actually have a map of the dream worlds that I drew when I was younger, because I realised in my dreams that I was moving from place to place, and that there was a sort of logic to this world that I was exploring. So I've kind of met other kinds of characters and been to places in the dream worlds that feel a little sticky and unpleasant, and I just feel as though I've had a lot of information that's come through to me that's really informed my spiritual practice. So, with all of that said, anything that I'm going to say next is kind of like, I feel it's just kind of scraping the surface of this huge, huge topic. But I'll try now to keep things on track by answering the question, which is about interpretation. So when we are interpreting dreams, the most important thing is to feel what is right for you. I always say that the best interpreter of a dream is the dreamer who had the dream. That said, it can be useful to speak to those such as myself, but also many other people who have experience with dream work. who can help you to navigate the symbols that you've encountered. And also it can be useful just to read up on the symbols that you've encountered. There's lots and lots of dream diary information online and books and so on. Some of them are very old-fashioned and some of them have quite random interpretations. But sometimes if you can find something that's a little less predictive, you can find some really useful information. So what I mean by all of this is, when you have a dream and you wake up from that dream and just think, what on earth was that about? The more vivid, the more pronounced, and so often the more weird, the more important that dream is. Often we kind of don't remember our dreams at all. But it doesn't mean that we haven't dreamed. It might just mean that we've already worked out what that meant. We've already sort of done the categorizing, or we've done the working through something, and we don't need to consciously remember it. But when we consciously remember it, maybe there's a reason for that. And that's why the dream has come back to us. But remember that every single aspect of the dream has been very specifically picked by your brain, your mind, your soul, however you want to speak of it. It's been chosen specifically. Why dream about a yellow elephant instead of a blue elephant? Why dream about going to Hawaii instead of going to Scotland? There are reasons that your brain picks these very specific symbols, places, feelings, names, people, animals. All of these things are specific. Think about how many things you have encountered and experienced in your entire lifetime. Think of every day that you've lived. Think of every movie that you've ever seen, every conversation that you've ever had, every book that you've ever read, every piece of music in your life. Everything is stored somewhere in your brain. Some of it you can easily access. Some of it is kind of almost like long forgotten, and it's probably in there somewhere, but you won't ever have any recall of it. But it is in there. It's like a computer system. Everything is in there. And then you have a dream and your brain picks these very specific things because they actually do make sense in the world of symbolism. They might not make sense as far as your linear, logical mind is concerned, how we normally communicate. But the brain uses symbols and symbolism for dreams because it gives us many layers of meaning. And this is why symbols are important. We use symbols in astrology, we use symbols in tarot and in runes, and dreams use symbols. Fairy tales and big stories all use symbolism as the language, the main language that is explaining everything, because there is so much more that you can say in a symbol. So when it comes to interpreting your dreams, and remember they're your dreams, so over time you might find that certain symbols come up again and again and again, or you might have certain places that you go to again and again and again in your dreams. So anything that repeats is very important. It might be repeating because you haven't understood the message. It might be repeating because it's just sort of saying, hey, we felt like this before, or this has happened before. Or it might be repeating because it's kind of giving you a message in that repetition. I'll give you a very simple example. If I dream about wasps, it means that I'm angry. I'm angry about something. I hate wasps. They absolutely terrify me. I do know that they are good for the planet and I never hurt them. They always get let out of the window. But I'm absolutely terrified of them because my grandmother nearly died after being stung by one. So I've got a very good reason why I'm scared of them. I've never been able to shake that phobia. So when one comes in, I get fearful, but I also get angry as well, because they always seem to be very angry little creatures to me because of the way they buzz. And so whenever I dream about wasps, I know that I'm very, very angry about something. But often I will also see that there's like lots and lots and lots of wasps, and they might get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And so that type of dream will tell me that things are kind of getting out of control, and I'm getting overly angry about a situation. I'm really magnifying it to something that is just, way too big. It's just not, it's not that bad kind of thing. That's what my brain is trying to say to me. It's reminding me that I'm going over the top. And similar with spiders, I have a real fear of spiders. Again, I think they're amazing creatures, and absolutely they're good luck as far as I'm concerned. And I'm only scared of the really big spiders. Like small spiders are fine. But big spiders, if a big spider comes into my dreams, then I know that it's just my fears that are getting out of control, and that I need to check in with myself. So a subtle difference, but wasps for me are anger, spiders for me are about fear. But they're also about much more than that, because particularly with spiders, they are connected with the goddess Arachne. They are connected with creation and creativity, and spiders are associated with things like creating traps, and so there's lots of other levels to what spider might mean. But I have my own personal meaning, which has come about from years and years and years of keeping a dream diary. So everything in your dream, including, like I said, the place, the setting, when it was, whether it's a place that you once used to know, or whether it's a place that you know now, whether it's a place that's completely and utterly of your imagination, it's still relevant. And the most important question really is, how do I feel? How do I feel in this dream? Everything that's occurring, do I feel happy, sad, upset, depressed, anxious, curious, amazed, in awe? What am I feeling? Because these are the feelings that are being examined through these symbols. And the symbols over time will start to give you a story. So what you could do with the dreams that you've already written down, if you go back over them, I would recommend keeping a normal day-to-day diary as well as your dream diary, so that you can reference back. Because what you need to do is look back and sort of see that, oh yes, on this date when I had that weird dream about drowning or something, my boss gave me loads of extra work to do. I mean, that's a bit of a kind of an obvious sort of dream, like I'm drowning, I'm completely overwhelmed with my work, I can't breathe. We can have that kind of symbolism come up. So you need to be able to look at your day-to-day life to see what was happening when you had this particular dream. Obviously, I would recommend that you start with a dream that feels really big and really important and really fascinating, something that really captures your attention, rather than with a dream that perhaps is just very short, or it just seems to be repeating things that you do in sort of day-to-day life. Because we do have different layers and levels of dreams as well. There are some dreams that are just sorting out stuff, on a day-to-day level, and other dreams are sorting out, really big life and karmic stuff, and they're giving you information about your spirituality, and, they can get bigger and bigger. There's Jung's big dreams. We kind of know when we're having a really big dream that feels more than a dream. It feels like it's telling us something really, really important. Maybe start with that and have a look at, what was happening in your life coming up to that dream. What sort of thoughts were you having about your life? You're feeling happy or sad? Big things happening? Were you making a lot of plans? Were you hoping to make some plans? Just what's going on in your life around the time that you had this dream, because dreams do tend to sort of bounce from events that are going on in your life. And sometimes, like I said before, we can actually have dreams that reappear because we're having a similar feeling to something that has happened in the past. So that can be important to note as well. So note what was going on in your life. Then when you look at the dream, just break down, like, what are the places? What are the settings? Do these places remind me of anywhere at all in my real life at any time? Do these names correspond to anybody that I know now or in the past? What am I feeling? Like I mentioned before, are there any animals? Are there any conversations? What are we talking about? How do I feel at the beginning of the dream compared to the end of the dream? Is there, some reference here to how I'm feeling as far as my day-to-day life? Is there some kind of echo going on here? It might be that if you dream about, for example, celebrities can, if you like that celebrity, if it's somebody you really love, then that's going to maybe speak to whatever part they play in a film, or maybe it's going to remind you of a piece of music that you really, really enjoy and it means something to you. Sometimes celebrities, and particularly if they are their actual characters, like dreaming about Doctor Who, for example, or if it's me, it's Captain Picard from Star Trek. It's always him or someone from Supernatural. So if you dream of these kinds of characters, then these are kind of larger than life characters. They're not real, but they're fictional, and they have certain attributes. So Captain Picard from Star Trek Next Generation. So one of his main sort of attributes is that he is very cool in a crisis. He's very kind, but a little reserved and a little kind of awkward when it comes to more emotional things or children. He's a little bit restricted. And very, very disciplined. But positively, he is very disciplined and he can deal with a crisis, and he's a very strong character. So when he comes into my dreams, he reminds me to call upon that aspect of his character, to remember that some discipline can do me good, because I'm not very good at being very disciplined with my time particularly. So he reminds me that I need to be disciplined. And also that I am perhaps stronger than I think I am. So that's an important kind of character for me personally. But we can all have these kinds of relationships, and it can be really useful to sit down and sort of make a list of important celebrities and important heroes in your life, people who are larger than life, real life people, and also characters from movies, because you might find that they turn up in your dreams, and then you've got a heads up on what that might mean for you. I'm going to give you an example of how a dream can be interpreted, because I think it might be helpful. There is such a lot that I could say about this. I don't want to kind of overwhelm you initially, and I think it's a very personal process as well, sort of getting to know your own dream world. But I thought I'd give you this example, and it might just give you some ideas of how I work with a dream, so that you can sort of have a starting point for some of your dreams. And hopefully I've already given you some ideas to work with anyway. So this dream actually was from about 6 years ago. I was going through quite a difficult time because I'd not long lost a friend of mine. I was having a lot of problems physically, a lot of chronic health issues, and just there was a lot of stuff going on. I wasn't having a particularly good time. So in the dream, I said, I put this in my dream journal. So I said, I'm dreaming of people from school. There's one point where I saw Elizabeth and Mary. I've changed those names, by the way, just for privacy reasons. So there's one point where I saw Elizabeth and Mary, and then some other girl. The last girl, she was upset with me for not recognising her and telling me that we used to be friends and lived nearby. I think it's whoever lived around the corner. But then again, I thought that was a boy. I can't remember him now either. Anyway, in the dream, I suddenly started crying because I remembered she was the one who was crippled or sick or used a walker or something like that. And I cried for her because I realised now how difficult things must have been for her. And I was really, really sobbing in the dream. And then there was something about animals. And I've taken on 2 cats and a couple of dogs. And someone is saying they're going to put this ginger kitten to sleep. So I take that too because I don't want it to die. But then I realise that it's all too much for me. And I have to find them all new homes. And I'm just not helping. So it's a very muddly, very unpleasant dream. I woke up feeling upset and just sad. Just really, really sad. So the dream is set at school. So firstly, we can say that some of the material that's coming up in this dream is sourced way back in my past. Some of what I'm dealing with is rooted deep in my past, going back to my childhood. We can also say, because it's a school, that this is a dream that's telling me I am going through a learning process right now. What are you learning? That's the first thing this dream is asking me. What are you learning, Leah? We are at school. We're at school and we're learning something. Now, the 2 people that I saw, I did change the names. The first person, we'll call her Elizabeth. The first person, the only thing I remember about her is that she was overweight at school. And then she went on a diet and became anorexic and was actually taken out of school. She did recover, thankfully. The second person was somebody that I was a little bit scared of. She wasn't a bully by any stretch of the imagination, not at all. But she could easily sort of give as good as she got. She wasn't scared of anyone, so she would chat to the bullies and she would chat to anyone else. She was very kind of sure of herself. And she had this little trick where she could turn her eyelids inside out as like a party trick. And I remember her walking home with me one day, and that was the day when I sort of realised that actually she's quite nice and I quite liked her, but I was still a little scared of her. And she showed me this trick with her eyelids. So these are important characters because we have Elizabeth, who clearly has a problem with food, as I did. And I still have a problem with food, that I'm working on my relationship with food because it is so long-standing. The dream reminds me this is things from childhood. So it's rooted in childhood. My difficulties around food are rooted in childhood. And I also had an eating disorder, not anorexia. So the eating disorder, the problems with foods and the problems with insecurity, the other character, Mary, I'm a little scared of her because she's so sure of herself, but I want to be like her. I want to be sure of myself. I want to be able to give as good as I get. I want to feel as though I can talk to anyone and not worry about what anyone else is thinking of me because she didn't. But the way to do that is that I need to turn my eyes inwards. I need to look inside. She's doing the eyelids inside out. So I need to look within. I need to look within to find this girl who I don't recognise. There's some other girl, a character who is just like nobody that you know. No, it's not a real person. It's not a celebrity. It's not a character from a film. These characters in your dreams are aspects of yourself. Usually they are aspects of yourself. And so this girl is upset with me for not recognizing her, and she also happens to be what I think of as some girl who had a walker. She had some kind of disability. She was sick. There was something wrong with her. This is not a real person, by the way, from my school. It's just this random character that my mind created. And yet she is crying and crying because I don't recognize her. In other words, the part of me that is sick, that had to at the time walk with 2 sticks. I think I was having to use 2 sticks at the time. I still use 1 walking stick occasionally now. But I was also dealing with all of these other ailments and problems. So clearly she recognizes me, but I don't recognize myself in her. So this character is saying that she's upset. The part of me that is sick and needs looking after and needs acknowledging is really, really hurt, because conscious Leah doesn't want anything to do with that. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to have these physical problems. I absolutely hate all that kind of stuff. I'm not a nurse. That's usually my classic kind of phrase. My way of dealing with it is not to deal with it. But my dream told me that I have insecurity issues, I have problems with food, and I also have this part of me that's incredibly sad and really needs acknowledgement and comfort. I remember I say, I'm sobbing my heart out in my dream. I'm sobbing, not just the character who's upset with me. I'm sobbing. So it's almost like the dream is sort of showing me, you need to shed a few tears for yourself. It's okay to cry for yourself. It's okay to feel something about this. You don't have to be positive. You can't always be positive all the time. Sometimes you've got to acknowledge where things are really, really hard. And, now I have to acknowledge that in the dream. And then the dream skips. So we get to the acknowledgement, we get to the realization of I need to cry and I am feeling really, really sad. And the dream then jumps to a story about animals, and I've got 2 dogs and 2 cats, and there's a ginger kitten that somebody's threatening the life of, and I'm going to take that on as well. But then I realize it's too much for me and I'm not helping. Now the animal connection is, firstly, I just love animals anyway, and I've always wanted animals, and yet now I've spent 20 odd years without having any pets in my life, although I do have a lot of animals now because I feed all the wildlife. So it's a very important aspect to myself to want to be able to look after animals. At the same time, going back to the school, when I was at school, we looked after loads of animals because our school had a little kind of mini sort of petting zoo, and I was kind of one of the kids that was in charge of that. I had a special key. I stayed late after school. I went to school very early in the morning to milk the goats and collect the hens and the eggs and feed the hens and the ducks, and we had like 100 guinea pigs and chinchillas and gerbils and budgerigars and rats. And I mean, we had so many animals. We had like 6 different goats and, kids, and had to milk them all and everything. So we had all of these amazing animals, and I took on that responsibility. I was there at the weekends. I mean, this is great for me because it kept me away from home where I was very unhappy and very scared. So having the responsibility of those animals was my way of kind of getting away from all my feelings. And so it's a similar thing in this dream that, when I'm hurt, when I'm sad, then what I want to do is lose myself in the things that I love, symbolized by the animals in this dream. But I can't do that because in the dream I know it's too much for me. I can't take on any more responsibility because I actually need to sort of look after myself instead of looking after everyone else. And it also translated into the fact that I was just working so much at the time that I was actually not creating any room for me to look after myself, not physically, not emotionally, mentally, anything. So this is what the dream is trying to tell me. I need to rehome all of this responsibility. I need to let go of some of these responsibilities, or what I am seeing as a responsibility in my life, so that I can help myself. So this is an example of how I interpreted this dream that I had. There are many kinds of dreams, and I will also say that there are some dreams that are more kind of psychological. Like this was very much a psychological dream, what I would call an internal dream, a dream that was set in my own internal landscape, in my inner world. But there are also dreams that are set in other worlds, or they are set in places which kind of cross from our kind of dream world, and it sort of crosses into the dream world of the collective. And we kind of know when we're in one place or another. So I hope that this kind of example and the things that I've talked about just give you some sense of where to start with interpreting your dreams. You could just start with sort of reviewing the dreams that you've written down so far. Just have a read of them to start with, and just jot down anything that comes to mind when you're reading it. Just anything, whatever pops into your head. Very often the first thoughts are the best when it comes to dream interpretation. And you're also waiting for those moments, which is kind of like oh, that's what it is. I get it. We feel it. Like I said, right at the beginning of this piece, we feel that rightness of interpretation. Also, as well, a little trick that you can use is to read the dream or say the dream out loud. It can be really helpful when you speak it out loud, because speaking it and reading it and thinking about it are very different things. Imagine if you're learning a language, for example, and you're reading your French newspaper, and then someone says something to you in French, and then it's like, I have no idea how to reply to them. I just don't know what to say. That gives you an example of how we use different parts of the sort of mind and brain to be able to communicate and understand and comprehend things. So sometimes just saying the dream out loud can make a difference. It can also be important to speak as if the dream is actually happening at that moment. So speak in the present tense. I mean, you can write it down in the past tense. I was going down the road and I saw a camel. But when you're speaking it, try to immerse yourself in it. I'm walking down the road. It's really, really hot. Feels like a really barren landscape. But there's this camel in the middle of the road. And try to speak as if it's actually happening. And that might give you more of a sense of what this actually means. And also, if you have the facility, if you are able, some people will be able to do this. If you know your astrology and you know how to cast a chart, you could cast a chart for the moment when you have the dream or when you remember the dream. So it might be when you wake up in the morning, or it might be, sometime in the afternoon, and something breaks your dream and you realize, oh, that's what I was dreaming about. Note down the time. You can interpret the chart for that time as a kind of exploration of the dream. And then you can also look at that chart in relation to your natal chart. So in other words, you're looking at the transits for the moment that you remember the dream, and you can explore what that might mean. So that's just another extra thing that you can do if you want to bring in astrology as well. It's quite extraordinary, actually, how the chart of a dream can be very, very descriptive of the themes that you're dreaming about. Because essentially, when you are tapping into the dream world, you are tapping into the same world as astrology, as tarot. You're dealing with the same archetypal forces, the same archetypal stories as all of these other systems. So often they are interrelated, and your dreaming mind is trying to communicate the energies at play. Dreams are profoundly important as part of your spiritual practice. I cannot emphasize enough how powerful it is to learn about these dream places, how much information you can receive, how much healing can take place in these dream lands. It is extraordinary. Please do keep a dream diary. So this brings me to the end of this recording. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please do click a like and subscribe. And if you would like to hear more from me, I do have all my links below for Substack and Patreon, my website, and all my social media. I wish you good dreams, and I will see you again soon.